My family's warrant of trade is written on vellum made from the skin of a heretic king. The ink is mixed with the ashes of the Xenos ambassador he treated with. The seal is the personal mark of the master of the Administratum, M32. It grants the Van Wynter dynasty the right to go where we please, to trade what we wish, to claim what we can hold. In the elegant, blood-soaked calligraphy of imperial law, it is a license for boundless ambition. In the practical, blood-soaked reality of the 41st millennium, it is a suicide note with a very long delivery time. I am Eliza van Wynter, Mistress of the Starweaver, and I sail the ocean of night, not the tame, mapped lanes of the Imperium Sanctus, patrolled by the Navy and blessed by shriveled priests. I sail the shallows of the Imperium Nihilus, the dark half of the galaxy, severed from the Astronomican's light. I sail the frontier nebulae where imperial law is a rumour whispered by drunkards. I have seen the galaxy not as the preachers describe it, a besieged fortress, but as it truly is, a graveyard of dead empires, a feeding ground for living nightmares, and a playground for monsters. And humanity, my dear, precious, stupid humanity, is just one more monster in the dark, convinced it's the gardener. The eternal war is not something you fight out here. It's the weather. It's the atmospheric pressure. It's the constant background radiation of a universe that has decided sentience is a fascinating disease to be studied under the lens of suffering. Let me tell you about my last port of call. A place called Last Port. Original, I know. It's a rogue trader rendezvous, a freehold anchored in the gravity well of a dead star. No imperial laws, just the rule of acquisition and the rule of the heaviest gun. You can buy anything there. A Haldean pearl dust that lets you dream the memories of extinct civilizations. Aeldari soul crystals still vibrating with the screams of their original owners. A perfectly functional and utterly silent man of iron combat drone from the Dark Age, if you have the tech priest guts to try and wake it. I was there to sell a cargo of glimmerwood, a psychic reactive fungus that grows only in the wake of a tyrannid hive fleet's digestion pools. It's used by certain eclectic factions of the Imperium for prophetic visions. It's also a potent narcotic for things that shouldn't have nervous systems. I'd harvested it from a spore-choked moon, dodging the leftover bioforms that still twitched with the hive mind's last commands. Dangerous work, profitable. In the tavern, a pressurized bubble of filthy glass bolted to an asteroid eye met the faces of the eternal war. There was Kargas, an Ork Freebooter, not a mindless beast. A businessman. He wanted the glimmerwood to trade to the Deathskull clan, who'd use it to make their lucky glyphs even more potent. He paid in teeth, not orc teeth, but the sharp crystalline fangs of a Hrud migration he'd interrupted. Currency is fluid out here. There was a Kroot Shaper, a silent avian silhouette in the corner. It offered me a gene seed from a fallen Space Mariner black shield from the Heresy era, perfectly preserved in a stasis casket it had found. The ultimate taboo. The ultimate commodity. I declined. Some doors, once opened, can't be closed. The Shaper seemed to understand, its beak clicking in what might have been respect or disappointment. And then there was the human, a man who called himself Serpent. He wore the tattered remains of an Imperial Guard uniform, but his eyes held the flat, dead calm of a veteran of wars the Departamento Munitorum doesn't record. He didn't want to buy, he wanted to talk. "You fly the Van Wynter colors," he said, sliding onto the bench opposite me. His voice was a dry rasp. "Your ancestor, Arcturus. He supplied the Iron Guard during the Gothic War. A loyal man, a profitable man," I corrected gently. "Is there a difference?" he asked, no irony in his tone. He believed it. "I served for 30 years. Cadian, The word hung in the air like a ghost. Cadia, the gate that fell. I was on the planet when the Cicatrix Maledictum tore the sky open, he continued, his eyes seeing something far away from the grimy tavern. Not in the final stand. Before, I was logistics, moving shells from Depot Gamma to the Kaiser forward lines. I saw the Black Legion drop pods falling like black comets. I saw the sky catch fire. And I saw our own, the Lord Castellan's own order, come through. All non-essential personnel to the evacuation shuttles. The gate must hold. The material is expendable. The workers are material. He took a long sip of foul rotgut. I was material. So I ran, not towards the shuttles, away, into the wilderness. I stole a damaged lighter from a burning hangar. I jumped blind, just away from the planet, from the fleet, from the tear in everything. I ended up here, in the great nothing that the Imperium spent 10,000 years pretending wasn't there. And now, I asked. Now I work for the Severed, he said, matter-of-factly. A chill that had nothing to do with the tavern's life support crept down my spine. The Severed, a dynasty of Necrons from the Navok lineage, their higher consciousnesses lost, operating on base protocols of harvest and annihilation. They were silent, unstoppable, and they paid in living metaller substance beyond price. You, broker for the Necrons. I translate, he corrected. They have needs, they have assets. I find the interface, the meeting point between their logic and our desperation. He looked at me, and the dead eyes finally sparked with something. Not life, calculation. They are interested in your glimmerwood. It emits a psychic resonance pattern that interferes with wraithbone construction. They believe it could be weaponized against the Aeldari. They offer a tesseract labyrinth for 1/3 of your hold. The offer was obscene. A tesseract labyrinth was a Necron prison, a pocket universe in a box. You could trap a greater demon in it, or a rival rogue trader, or a particularly annoying planetary governor. It was power of a kind the Imperium couldn't even comprehend, let alone replicate, and it was being offered for space mushrooms by a Cadian turncoat on behalf of robot skeletons from before time, to be used against space elves in a war that started when humanity was crawling out of the primordial ooze. This is the 41st millennium. It is not a simple war of us versus them. It is a multidimensional, multi-species, multi-temporal free-for-all. The Imperium, in its magnificent, arrogant isolation, thinks it is the protagonist. It is not. It is just one more empire crashing through the jungle, firing blindly into the dark, convinced every rustle is a threat and every glimmer of light is its own divine right. I looked at Serpent. I looked at the Ork, counting his teeth. I looked at the Kroot Shaper, now quietly negotiating with a dark Mechanicum acolyte for the Space Marine gene seed. I refused the Necron offer. Not out of loyalty to the Imperium. The Imperium would burn me as a heretic for even listening. I refuse because dealing with the Severed is like letting a geological process into your accounts ledger. They are not partners. They are a force of nature with a shopping list. And you do not want to be on that list when the item is you. As I left last port, the Starweaver sliding silently past the jagged asteroids, I looked at my family's warrant, displayed in a stasis field in my ready room. The hereticking skin, the ash ink, the ancient seal. A document of ultimate freedom, written in ultimate tyranny. Out here, I am free. Free to see the truth. And the truth is this: the eternal war is not a battle for survival. It is the ecosystem. Humanity's great, grinding war machine is just one particularly loud and messy predator in a galaxy that is, itself, alive and hungry. The Orks wage war for the joy of it, The Necrons wage war because it is the last programming left in their dead minds. The Aeldari wage war to stave off the eternal damnation their own excesses birthed. The Tyranids wage war because they are the universe's white blood cells, and sentience is the infection. And humanity, we wage war because we have forgotten how to do anything else. We built an empire on the promise of peace through conquest, and when the conquest failed, we had nothing left but the war. It is our culture, our religion, our economy. It is the only song we remember how to sing, and we will sing it until our voices give out and the last echo dies in the cold, silent void. I am Eliza van Wynter. I sail the dark. I trade with monsters. I have seen the face of the eternal war, and it has 1,000 faces, all of them alien, and all of them, in some way, a reflection of our own. We are not the defenders of civilization. We are the barbarians at our own gate, convinced we're the ones holding the keys. And the most terrifying thought, the war will go on, with or without us. Long after the last human breath has frozen in the void, the orcs will still be fighting, the Necrons will still be marching, the great game will still be playing. We are not fighting for eternity. We are just a brief, violent flicker in an eternal darkness that was here before us and will be here long after we're gone. Our war isn't endless because we are strong. It's endless because, in the grand scheme of things, we simply don't matter enough to end it. I am Eliza van Wynter. I hold a warrant that lets me dance on the edge of oblivion. And I have learned that the most valuable currency in the 41st millennium is not gold, nor thrones, nor promethium. It is perspective. And from where I stand, on the crumbling rim of a dying empire, the perspective is terminal. They think, back on their safe, shrine-infested worlds, that the war is a series of battles. An orc horde here, a chaos incursion there, a Xenos fleet repelled at great cost. They believe in front lines and rear echelons, in victories and defeats. They are children building sandcastles before the tide, arguing over whose turret is taller, blind to the ocean. Let me tell you about the tide. 2 cycles after I left last port, the Starweaver's Auspex picked up a distortion, not a ship's signature, a gravity signature, but wrong. It pulsed, languid and sick, like the heartbeat of a leviathan dying of a sweet poison. It was coming from a star system the charts listed as Vorlus, a minor mining outpost. My family's logs showed we'd traded there a century ago for high-grade adamantium, a boring, profitable transaction. What we found was not boring. Vorlus's star was bruised. A great pallid blotch of ochre and violet bloomed across its northern hemisphere, a stellar infection. The mining planet itself was gone, not destroyed, transfigured. A lattice of glowing, green crystal, miles high, had erupted from its crust, engulfing continents, a sudden, violent geometry imposed on a sphere of rock. It thrummed with a sound that bypassed the ears and vibrated in the teeth. Necron World sculpting. The Severed, or another dynasty, had passed through. They hadn't conquered the world, they had edited it. They needed its mineral wealth, so they reprocessed the entire planet into a more efficient extraction matrix. The million souls who had mined there were now just a mineral trace in the glowing latticework. There was no battle here, no resistance, just a before and an after. A footnote in a ledger written in stellar fire and living metal. This was the war the Imperium doesn't fight. It's the war of geology against biology, and biology loses. Every time. We ran, silent running, every non-essential system powered down, hiding in the solar wind. As we fled, a ship translated into real space near the Crystal World, not an Imperial vessel, an Aeldari Corsair raider, a blade of wraithbone and solar sails. It didn't attack the Necron structure. It circled it, once, twice, like a carrion bird assessing a corpse. Then it fired a single, shimmering lance of energy not at the structure, but at a specific, pulsing nexus. The crystal lattice flared, a discordant shriek echoing across the Vox. The Corsair vanished into the webway, its point made. A scratch on a monument. A tiny, elegant fuck you in an uncaring universe. That is another front in the eternal war, the war of spite. The Aeldari cannot stop the Necrons, but they can remind them they are seen. They can be an inconvenience. In the 41st millennium, sometimes spite is the only victory possible. We limped to a supposed safe haven, a Cardinal World on the edge of the Imperium Nihilus sanctuary Ikes. It was a beacon, they said. A bastion of faith and Imperial law in the dark. Sanctuary the Ninth was a monument to fear. Its orbital plates were forests of gun batteries, each barrel inscribed with prayers of hatred. Its streets were not thoroughfares, but kill zones, designed by paranoid strategists. Every citizen wore a data tag listing their genetic purity and last confession. The air reeked of incense and the ozone of active suppression fields. Preachers on every corner screamed of demons in the dark and the purity of suffering. This wasn't a civilization. It was a siege mentality made manifest in stone and flesh. They weren't living, they were preparing to die correctly. I tried to sell the Glimmerwood here, not to the ecclesiarchy, but to a black market biomancer who supplied the Cardinal's own private zealot legions with battle stims. The meeting was in a subterranean chapel, drowned in the smell of mold and sanctified oil. The biomancer, a twitching wretch named Fisk, examined a sample under a lurid green lumen. Psychotropic resonance is potent, unstable. The visions it induces could be weaponized, or they could drive an entire battalion to claw out their own eyes. Seeing the face of the enemy in their own squad mates, he looked at me, his eyes wide with a mix of greed and terror. The Cardinal's seers, they have been prophesying a great tide of revelations that will wash away the unclean. This could be the catalyst, or it could be the poison. The line is thin. That's what makes it valuable, I said. As we negotiated, the city's alarms sounded. Not the deep, booming war alarms, but a shrill, pervasive screeching, the Psychana siren. A psychic breach. Somewhere in the hive, a latent psyker had manifested, their mind tearing open like a rotten fruit, inviting the things that swim in the warp. We heard the thunder of boots, not the local enforcers, the Adeptus Arbits, and with them the silent, terrifying figures of the black ship's handlers. They were not coming to fight a demon. They were coming to quarantine a soul, to cut out the infected tissue before the infection spread. Fisk panicked. The shipment, you must dump it. If they find it here, with its warp signature, they'll purge the entire block. They'll burn us all. I looked at his terrified face, at the empty eyes of the stone saints in the chapel niches. This was the Imperium's war at home, not against Xenos or heretics, but against its own humanity, a war on possibility, a war on the very inner space of its citizens' minds. The enemy was not at the gates. The enemy was in the cradle, in the gin code, in the random spark of a brain. The Imperium's greatest battle was a perpetual, silent civil war against the unpredictable nature of its own species. We got the Glimmerwood off-world, of course. A bribe to a portmaster whose faith was weaker than his lust for luxury. But the lesson was seared into me. The Imperium is not just fighting for survival, it is fighting against itself. Its own people are its most feared resource, to be controlled, suppressed, and spent with grim piety. The final leg of that journey taught me the last facet of the war. We were chased by pirates. Not ordinary scum, but something worse. Their ships were Imperial designs, but festooned with blasphemous runes, their hulls weeping rust like blood. Chaos Reavers. They didn't hail us. They didn't demand surrender. They broadcast a signaler, constant grinding loop of atonal music and screaming that scrambled our lower-deck crew's minds. Two of my armsmen shot each other, convinced the other was a shape-changing horror. We fought them off. It cost us a launch bay and 30 lives. But as we broke away, I saw their flagship, a ravaged cruiser, turning not to pursue, but towards Sanctuary Ix. They weren't after my cargo. They were after the faith. The concentrated, frantic, terrified faith of a Cardinal World was a beacon to them, a delicious wine. They would raid, not for slaves or loot, but for the sacrilege, to defile the cathedrals, to torture the priests, to prove that the Emperor's light was a joke. Their war was not for territory, but for despair. So here is the eternal war, as seen from the bridge of the Starweaver. It is the Necron war of cold, silent replacement. The universe as a machine to be optimized, life as a negligible interference. It is the Aeldari war of elegant, desperate spite. A holding action against oblivion, fought with the grace of a falling knife. It is the Imperium's war of self-immolation. A fight against the galaxy, against the self, against the future. All in the name of preserving a corpse god's dying dream. It is the chaos war of meaningless consumption, a feeding on the pain and fear that all the other wars produce forever, because that is all that is left. And weaving through it all, the orcs fighting for the pure, perfect joy of it. The only ones who truly understand the game. Humanity is not special in this. We are just louder, more numerous, and more convinced of our own tragedy. We built an empire that is a mirror of the galaxy's cruelty, superstitious, violent, bureaucratic, and endlessly consumptive. We are not the besieged, we are the siege. We are the disease, convinced we are the cure. I will keep sailing. I will keep trading. I will sell glimmerwood to biomancers and pearls to orcs, because in the 41st millennium, there are no sides, there is only the tide, and you can either build a wall against it and drown when it inevitably breaks through, or you can learn to sail on its surface, however treacherous the waves. I am Eliza van Wynter. My warrant is written on human skin, in ashes, sealed with tyranny. And it is the only thing that grants me the freedom to see the awful, magnificent, terrifying truth. We are not fighting an eternal war. We are the eternal war. And the only way to survive it is to understand that you are already lost. After that, every sunrise is a stolen treasure, every breath an act of rebellion, and every deal you close is a middle finger raised to a universe that never cared in the first place. So let them have their battles. Let them chant their prayers and fire their cannons and die for their causes. I will be in the dark, between the lines, trading with the monsters. Because out here, in the true night, the only thing more terrifying than the war is the lie that it could ever end.